Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 as we continue the first chapter of My Inner Life. So far, we've had some pretty butchered canon. We've had complete misunderstanding of how the Temple of Time works, not knowing how the Master Sword works, and not knowing basic geography, which is pretty inexcusable. So, let us continue this next part. Okay. I could tell that she knew I had my eyes set on Link, though she remained silent about it. There were male Kokiri as well. One in particular was named Mido. He was the leader of the Kokiri, and a dear friend of Saria and Link. He had a sense of humour, but he yet remained stern and headstrong, for he was their leader and was responsible for their lives. It was time for the feast. Saria gestured for me to join them at the feast table. She led me to the seat next to Link. As I sat down next to him, she smiled and winked at me. Did she plan this? I asked myself, and then smiled. After a moment, I looked over all the food. There was a great abundance of food to eat. There was cooked pork in a rich chestnut cream sauce, beef stew, cooked turkey, and all different kinds of cheeses, bread and butter, cooked vegetables, and even many different kinds of fruit. My mouth began to water as I combed over the food. After I served myself, I began to eat. As I was eating, I could not help but notice that Link was watching me out of the corner of his eye. Okay, this first chapter. Let's have a look first at the types of food. There's some items on there which are not part of the Zelda fandom at all. Turkeys, wouldn't they be having cuckoos? Really? Chestnuts, more likely they'd be having, deku nuts, not chestnuts. Combing over the food. Well, what's she doing? Has she got a comb and decided she was going to brush the food as opposed to a hair? There's also little instances of redundancy. There was a great abundance of food to eat. Well, I'd love to know what else you would plan to do with food. Really? And as for Mido, in canon, he wasn't really stern and headstrong. He was more of a... Well, the best way to say it is that he was just vile to Link for no apparent reason. And a question to herself, did she plan this? Well, no shit, of course she planned the feast. Ugh. Common sense, Jen, common sense. Let's carry on. I could feel his stare. Though it was pleasant, then our eyes met and a smile crossed his face. As I stared into his eyes, they seemed to glow under the light of the moon. He even looked more handsome in the moonlight. And I told myself that I would be crazy to pass up a man like this. After everyone had finished eating, all of the Kokiri got up and started to dance. Some of the Kokiris even played instruments. As the music drifted in the air, Link took my hand in his. Would you care to dance? I looked at him and smiled. Yes, I'd love to. He led me to where everyone else was, and we started to dance. We danced and drank long into the night, and to show my appreciation, I even did a solo dance. Then after I did my dance, I went to sit down and rest. I was tired. Link came and sat down beside me. You look real tired. Are you ready to retire? Link said as he put his hand on my shoulder. I nodded yes and tried to get up and walk, but I was so tired and had too much to drink that I stumbled. Catching me in his arms, Link led me back to where I was sitting. I think it would be wise if you stay here tonight. I have plenty of room and I can escort you back to the castle in the morning. Link looked at me with a worried look and decided to stay. And that is how we spent every night together, even up to the night when I finally shared his bed. Okay, stop right here. She's supposed to be staying with Link tonight at his place. It's a treehouse. Link lived in a treehouse. She would have to climb up a ladder. Mary Sue was currently drunk. Do you normally ask a drunk to climb a ladder? No. No, you don't. Why? They're going to fall and hurt themselves. The end. Okay. I started to know within inside myself that Link was the one I wanted to be with, even more so on the night I shared myself with him. It was a warm spring night and night had just arrived. Stop there. That's a redundant sentence again. A warm spring night and night had just arrived. Well, no shit. If it's night time, then it's night time. Oh, no, never mind. Continue. Link and I were sharing the quiet sounds of the night together. I had been seeing Link for a little more than a month. The spring festival had come and gone, and the warm weather was finally returning. All signs of winter were almost gone, and my time in Hyrule was about to end for this year. In the 2 weeks I would be leaving for the city of Tarvira, knowing that this made me sad to go since I didn't want to leave Link. I'd finally found someone that I truly loved, and I would have to leave him behind when it was time to leave. Even Link was not happy after I told him that I would be leaving soon. When I told him, his face went from happy to a depressed one. He wanted to be with me and he wanted to stay in Hyrule with him. I was going to spend every last minute I had with him enjoying it. We had remained quiet for some time. Then it was Link who broke the silence. Jenna, it's been a wonderful almost 2 months with you. I watched as he stuttered to find his words. Even as short as it was, I really enjoyed the time I've spent with you. I wish you did not have to leave. I don't think I'll ever find another quite like you, Link says, as a look of sadness appeared in his eyes. At that moment I was on the verge of tears. I was in love with him. I leaned over and softly placed my lips on his and kissed him tenderly. Then he looked deeply into my eyes and told me he loved me, and with those words I began to cry. I'd never felt this way before. Like the way he feels when... The way he makes me feel when I'm with him. He gently took his hand and wiped away my tears. Then he put his hand underneath my chin and slowly lifted my head up until our eyes met. With his hand, he drew my face close to his, gently placed his lips on mine and kissed me softly. At that moment, I took the opportunity to deepen the kiss. As our tongues met, I started to feel his hands caressing my body. As he gently caressed my body, I let out small moans into his mouth. He then moved his lips to my neck, placing sweet nibbles on it as his hands trickled up my back to the clasp of my dress. Little by little, he slowly started to remove my dress, and I felt my body quivering under the gentle caressing of his broad hands as he pulled the dress down off my legs and tossed it aside. Slowly, he moved back to my lips and kissed me forcefully. His tongue began probing my mouth. My tongue slowly met his, causing it to intertwine with his, tasting the sweetness of him. When we broke off the kiss, I looked into his dark blue eyes and reached up to remove the belt from around his waist. Alright, let's just stop here for one moment. He kisses her forcefully, but their tongues meet slowly. No, that's not possible. Okay. So we're now getting into the porn scene, clearly. Okay, let's continue. Slowly I pulled off his belt, letting it fall to the ground. Then I slipped my hands under his tunic and swiftly removed it as his lips went to my breasts. As his lips and tongue teased the nipples of my breasts, I felt new feelings swarm through my body. Okay, stop again. The nipples of my breasts. Do you have nipples anywhere else, dear? Because I don't. Ugh. And also, how can she be, like, removing the tunic at the same time when his lips are on her breasts? Never mind, we've got the first actual impossibility there. Let's carry on. My back arched and groans of pure pleasure escaped past my lips. Never had I felt such feelings before. Never had my body ever felt such pleasure. Then Link slowly moved his lips up and down my body till he reached my navel. When he kissed it, a giggle passed my lips. Then he looked up and we looked into each other's eyes as he reached up to his chest and placed my hands on the lace that held the collar together of his white undershirt. His body started quivering as my hands worked across his chest while I removed his white undergarments. Then I yanked it off, exposing his beautiful heavenly naked body, a body of pure heaven. Alright, let's stop here a second. He's there kissing her belly, and yet at the same time she can remove his shirt and her hands are on his chest. She must have some long ass arms then if she can do that. And yet some more redundancy. You know, beautiful heavenly naked body and a body of pure heaven. Okay, Jen, fair enough. Let's continue. Our lips met again as he gently pushed me down onto his bed, climbing on top of me. I began to feel his heart beating in his chest as his lips moved back to the nipples on my breasts. Soft moans of pleasure passed my lips as he nibbled gently on my nipples, causing them to become erect. As he teased my nipples with his lips and tongue, I felt his hand work its way down to my body. First to my thighs, then between my legs. He gently brushed his hand across the lips of my mound, and I groaned to tell him to continue. Alright, I've got to stop here again. A mound? Really? I mean, in the majority of fanfics, it would simply be a pussy, or something like that. It's calling it a mound, you just... No. There's plenty of other words for female genitals other than mound. Oh, dear me. Slowly his fingers probed around the inside of my flower, sending strange new pleasurable feelings coursing through my body. A flower? Really? Oh, God almighty. Never mind, let's carry on. I moaned louder as his fingers caressed the inside of my mound, slowly moving in a slow up and down motion. Then his fingers brushed against my clit, and I screamed out as a pulse of pure ecstasy raced through me. I grabbed his hand and pulled it closer, telling him that I wanted more. Taking the hint, he teased me, and as his hand brushed across my clit every few strokes, my body shuddered under his touch as my soft moans turned into cries of pleasure and pure ecstasy. As Link's fingers teased and caressed my mound, his fingers moved down until they brushed over the entrance. Hold on, I thought he was already fingering her. This makes no sense. Either he was fingering her or he wasn't. Oh. Who's to say there's going to be more inconsistencies in this sex scene? I mean, bloody hell, was she like masturbating when she wrote this or something? Probably. Slowly, Link inserted a finger, slipping it into the wetness probing inside me, causing animal-like cries to pass my lips. Okay, I'm stopping again. Animal-like cries. Really? If somebody was making animal-like cries in bed, I would be pretty disturbed, if I'm going to be honest with you. Anyway, let's carry on. Then I arched my back and screamed in pure ecstasy as he began to thrust his broad fingers deep inside my hot wetness. New feelings flooded through my body, rushing to my head like a sugar high, as his fingers pushed their way in and out of my sleek, beautiful body. With each thrust, my legs shuddered, sending momentary shocks to my lower organs. Then I arched my back, my body screaming in ecstasy as his movements became faster. I reached up and dug my nails into his muscular back as the eternal bliss raced through my every vein. Alright. Momentary shocks. It sounds like she's been bloody electrocuted or something. Really? And how many times does she have to say pure ecstasy? I think we're getting pretty sick of hearing that in this sex scene. Let's carry on. I began feeling jolts of pure hot passion surging through my lower organs, through my bones as I felt myself starting to climax. My back arched and I grunted in cat-like sounds as he began to thrust his fingers deeper up in the movement. My hands felt his back come sweaty as I dug my nails in deeper. Then my slender body twisted as I came to full climax, and I screamed in ecstasy as my warm juices gushed down his hand. Falling back painting, I looked into his eternal blue eyes. I want to make love to you, I whispered, as he ate my body with his hungry stare. I've wanted to make love to you from the day I first met you, Link said, as his hungry lips returned to my beautiful neck. Alright, let's stop here a second. Warm juices gushed down his hand. Just how much fluid is she supposed to be producing down there? I mean, the whole point of the being fluid is simply, enough so that a penis can actually go inside without causing any pain. Women do not gush. That's not how it works. At all. You would think she would know that, being a woman, that we do not gush. Falling back painting. Painting with what? I dread to think at this stage. Oh well, let's carry on. Then I bucked my head back and cat-like sounds escaped past my lips as he pressed his hot body down against mine. As I ran my nails down his sweaty back, and I felt our hearts starting to beat faster as our bodies became hungry for each other. Alright, stop it again. Cat-like sounds. What, like? Meow. Imagine being in bed with somebody and they suddenly go, meow. No, I think I'd be a little bit disturbed at that point. I'd be like, what are you doing that for? People don't normally make that sort of noise anyway, let alone when they're in the middle of having sex. Suddenly, strange new feelings began to surge through me as our passions ignited. Then he penetrated deep inside my sweaty body. The feeling rushed through me like a raging river. The feeling of feeling like a woman. Stop it. The feeling of feel like a woman. So you feel like multiple women as opposed to an individual woman. Oh, Christ almighty. And why is it always strange new feelings? Like, oh my God almighty. Never had I felt this way before. I felt my body beginning to surge with strange new feelings as I let my virginity slip away. Your virginity slipping away? As we made love, I whispered in his ear that he made me feel like a woman, and to my surprise he said I made him feel like a man. I'll stop again. Why should that actually surprise it? I mean, what else is he supposed to feel like other than being male? Does that mean he felt like a transsexual or something before? Never explained, makes no sense. Anyway, let's carry on. We made love long into the night, fulfilling each other's hot desires and fantasies, and I thought to myself that this was the one thing I didn't want to miss. I wanted to drink in every part of him, and after it was over I could not wait to feel him again. Right, it looks like that's the end of the sex scene. Oh dear me. Now, there's one thing that I probably should say at this point. If you are really drunk, as Jenna appeared to be, and you're having sex, it feels more like being in a washing machine or something like that. You certainly wouldn't enjoy it to that degree. Not being drunk, you wouldn't. Really? Anybody who had actually had sex at all would not have written this scene. And anybody who's had sex when they've been intoxicated would also know that it's not that pleasurable when you're that pissed. But since this is Mary Sue, and apparently the normal rules don't apply, there you go. So, let's carry on. The next few days were depressing. Us knowing that I was leaving in less than 2 weeks made us depressed. The nights were spent mostly quiet, except for the occasional sigh. I was beginning to think I'd never be this happy again. Link made me feel special. He'd made me feel like a woman, and he was my first. Do I really have to leave? I asked myself. But then I remembered the places I travelled to every year were counted on me, so I had to go, love or not. It was the day before I was leaving. I was at the marketplace for the last time this year. I was at my stand selling what I had left when I saw Link enter the market and headed for where I was. As I watched him, I wondered if this was going to be the last time I was ever going to see him. I began to cry when he approached me. Taking his hand, he gently wiped away my tears and told me not to cry. He looked deeply into my brown eyes and told me he had something to tell me. Then he got down on one knee and produced a small gold box. He opened it to reveal a gold diamond ring inside. With a loud gasp, I clapped my hands over my mouth. Then he took my hand in his. "Will you marry me?" he asked with hope in his eyes, and I started to cry again. Okay, stop here. A hand clapped over a mouth. What is clapped? You can clap your hands over your mouth, you can't clop them. I've certainly not heard of anyone doing that. So, Link has had sex with her once and he's proposing marriage. They've only been dating for 2 months. Yeah, that's completely believable. No. The marriage here proposal is much too fast. "Oh my goddesses, yes, I will," I said between tears. He took my left hand and placed the ring on my finger. When he got up, we embraced and started to kiss. Now I knew I did not have to leave. Hyrule was meant to be my home. We were destined to be together. Summer finally arrived, and the signs of spring were slowly fading. I was spending my days at Hyrule Castle, helping with the chores and making plans for my upcoming wedding. Link spent his days building our home in the Lost Woods for her to live in after we were married. Okay, stop there. There's a couple more things I need to say at this point. First of all, why is she helping with the chores in Hyrule Castle? Since she's apparently as good as part of the royal family, surely she would have servants to do that. And secondly, as anybody who has actually bothered to pay attention to Ocarina of Time canon, anybody who spends significantly long time in the Lost Woods will turn into a monster, or so it's told. So, yeah, that sounds like the perfect place to set up home, doesn't it? Not. Right, let's carry on. I was excited about our upcoming wedding. I was marrying Link. I finally had the man I fell in love with. He was special to me, and he was building a home for us to live in, a home for us to raise our family in. Link told me he wanted to be a father, and most of all he wanted a son. They had talked about having children together. When I first started travelling, I didn't want children, but now that I was marrying Link, I decided I wanted to have children with him. Having children by him would make them strong and beautiful, since Link was strong and beautiful himself. Even my friendship with Princess Zelda and her father grew stronger when we told them about our engagement and that we were going to have children. Since Zelda was not betrothed and had not yet wed, this was the closest thing to her being a mother and the king being a grandfather. Now that we were to wed, my life was almost complete. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. There are so many issues. Why would Zelda not find somebody, settle down and get married and give the king biological grandchildren? Is there a reason why not? Personally, I can't see any. Basically, this is just an excuse for Mary Sue to usurp Zelda's role in canon. Oh dear. Dear, this is only going to go downhill from here. I can see that right off. So I think at this point I'm going to sign off because, well, this episode's actually nearly 25 minutes long in itself, so that's enough for one. And stay tuned because the next one is called The Wedding.